Another interesting clip of a discussion between Graham Hancock and Mauro Biglino, and this time it's about the Kavod. And after the clip, I'll explain why I'm so interested in this sort of thing.
Can you think of other objects in the Bible which maybe deserve a technological interpretation rather than a spiritual interpretation?
There is another object named Kavod. Mm-hmm. Kavod is always translated as glory of Yahweh.
Right.
But in a book of Ezekiel, there is some clear translations that can allow us to think that it was an technological tool.
Let's just stop for a moment and read the passage in Ezekiel. I looked, and I saw a figure like that of a man. From what appeared to be his waist down, he was like fire. And from there up, his appearance was as bright as glowing metal. He stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit, Ruach, lifted me up between earth and heaven, and in visions of God he took me to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. And there before me was the glory of God, Kavod of Israel, as in the vision I had seen in the plain.
In one Italian translation, San Paolo editions, mm-hmm. is written that Ezekiel hear the sound produced by Kavod, mm-hmm. Which was on the back of him, mm-hmm. when this Kavod were arising from the earth. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
so let's read this one now. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a loud rumbling sound, as the glory of the Lord, Kavod, rose from the place where it was standing. It was the sound of wings, of the living creatures brushing against each other, and the sound of wheels beside them. A loud rumbling sound. The Spirit, Ruach, then lifted me up and took me away. I went in bitterness and in anger of my spirit, with the strong hand of the Lord upon me.
Is translated in this way in the San Paolo Bible. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And is the exact translation of the Hebrew term, yeah. That is not Baruch, but is Berun.
What happened to Kavod?
Kavod. No, Berun is the term that indicates the fact that Kavod was rising from the earth.
So it was rising up.
Producing a great noise. Okay. That Ezekiel heard, but this noise was behind him.
Is it also the Kavod that burns the face of Moses?
Yes.
It's the same. So yes, it produces sound
and
it burns. Oh.
As the sun.
It sounds very.
As the sun.
It does sound very technological.
Yes.
So let's look at these passages. And this is 34:29 of Exodus. As Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant in his hands, he did not know that the skin of his face had become radiant, while he had spoken to the Lord. The other interesting parts are as follows. And he said, "Please show me your glory." Then he said, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before you." And later he says, "But you cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live." And then he proceeds to explain away that by hiding behind a rock, he'll be protected. So when passing by, they won't be hurt. You may well ask at this point, so what has all this got to do with Atlantis and with ancient advanced technology, and in particular, my dreams of this? Well, the reason this is interesting to me is because there was one particular leader of Atlantis whose technology was not what I would call safe. And these descriptions actually match the sort of technology that that particular leader had. I've done a brief episode on this particular leader called Japay, and I think that it's quite fortuitous finding this clip because I'm currently working on an episode called Angry Gods, which is where I'm looking at the various myths of gods to see how they match the behavior of this one particular leader of Atlantis. So when I look at these passages, what I see in my mind's eye is things that I've seen in my dreams, a propulsion system that is blast-oriented rather than the more natural forms of propulsion used by Uran, the first leader, and also the sorts of things that would be a byproduct of that would be the noise and the heat. That person was being raised into the air by this sort of technology, they would feel a pressure upon them from the rapid acceleration. Not only that, but they would also feel an anxiety which is only natural for someone who's never experienced that sort of thing before. A passage where he says, "And I will show my goodness before you." It's really the sort of thing that Japay would say, like, "I'm going to show you all my amazing technology. I'm going to really impress you because you've never seen anything like this before. But no one can see me and live." It's more like no one can be in my blast radius and survive. And I guess the words just didn't exist in those days. So I just love these discussions that Graham Hancock have with brilliant people like Mauro Biglino, because it brings up so many things that are so relevant to my dreams. And for me, it's just a really refreshing thing because it reinforces things that I've been saying and makes me feel less like an idiot.